The atmosphere inside the iconic Studio 1A at NBC felt unusually heavy one recent morning as the Today Show hosts gathered at the familiar desk. Normally a place filled with lively banter, celebrity interviews, and lighthearted segments designed to start the day on an uplifting note, the space instead carried an unmistakable air of solemnity and concern. Craig Melvin and Sheinelle Jones sat side by side, their expressions carefully composed yet visibly strained, as they prepared to deliver an update that weighed heavily on everyone involved. The segment began with a quiet acknowledgement that this was not an ordinary broadcast. Sheinelle Jones, who had been stepping in to help anchor the program during her colleague's absence, opened the conversation with measured words. She explained that the morning's coverage would focus on the ongoing situation surrounding Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy Guthrie. The phrase, Savannah's beloved mother, Nancy, carried a tender weight, reminding viewers of the personal connection that tied this story to the heart of the show's family. Craig Melvin, seated beside her, added context by pointing out the empty space usually occupied by Savannah herself. He noted that on most mornings, viewers would see the 54-year-old journalist greeting them warmly from that very spot, delivering news, sharing laughs, and guiding the program through its many segments. But today was profoundly different. Savannah was not there in person, and the reason was heartbreakingly clear. Instead of her usual presence, a very different kind of message had been prepared, one that demanded immediate attention and compassion from the audience. Sheinelle continued, explaining that Savannah, together with her siblings Annie Guthrie and Cameron Guthrie, had recorded a direct and deeply emotional video. In it, they addressed their mother personally while also speaking to anyone who might have taken her against her will. The siblings' words were described as raw and urgent, a desperate plea born out of love, fear, and dwindling hope. Craig emphasized that the video would be played in its entirety so viewers could hear the message exactly as it was intended. No edits, no interruptions, just the unfiltered voices of a family in crisis. As the hosts transitioned to airing the footage, the camera briefly panned across the studio, revealing an increased security presence that had become noticeable in recent days. Members of the New York City Police Department stood watch in the background, their uniforms and watchful postures a stark contrast to the usual polished, welcoming environment of morning television. The sight served as a silent reminder that the situation extended far beyond personal grief and into the realm of public safety concerns. Reports had surfaced that the security measures around the Manhattan Broadcast Center had been significantly strengthened as a precautionary step. The decision stemmed from an abundance of caution amid the uncertainty surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Sources familiar with the arrangements indicated that NBC had collaborated closely with local law enforcement to ensure the well-being of its staff and on-air talent during this tense period. The atmosphere inside the building had shifted noticeably, tension hung in the air, conversations were quieter, and everyone moved with a heightened sense of awareness. The previous day had seen Sheinelle openly share how deeply affected she felt by the unfolding events. She admitted to feeling rattled and struggling to sleep, confessing that the weight of worry made rest nearly impossible. Despite those challenges, she and her colleagues understood the importance of continuing their work. The Today Show team has always described itself as a family, and in moments like this, that bond was tested in the most painful way. Sheinelle's voice carried genuine emotion as she spoke about the collective sense of being shaken, underscoring that the crisis was not just Savannah's, it belonged to everyone who shared the desk and the daily routine. Jenna Bush Hager, another familiar face on the program, added her own heartfelt words during an earlier segment. She described Nancy as a woman who was deeply cherished by the entire Today family. The sentiment was not mere politeness, it reflected years of interactions, shared stories, and the kind of warmth that comes from genuine affection. Jenna's comments served as a reminder that behind every on-air personality was a real person with real loved ones whose safety mattered profoundly to those around them. The broader context of Savannah's absence added another layer of difficulty. She had made the difficult decision to step away from an upcoming high-profile assignment, hosting coverage of the Winter Olympics in Italy. That choice reflected the gravity of the situation at home. Craig Melvin, too, would remain in New York rather than travel, choosing to stay close to the studio and support the ongoing coverage however he could. Other familiar names from the Today world, including former co-anchor Hoda Kotb, had shown their solidarity by reposting Savannah's emotional video across social media platforms. Their messages carried a common refrain: keep praying, keep hoping, keep holding space for a positive outcome. Nancy Guthrie, at 84 years old, faces significant health challenges that make her disappearance all the more alarming. She deals with high blood pressure and cardiac issues, conditions that require consistent medication and careful monitoring. Without access to her prescriptions, her condition could deteriorate rapidly, adding urgency to every passing hour of the search. The timeline of events paints a disturbing picture. Nancy was last seen Saturday evening when her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, dropped her off at her Arizona residence following a family dinner. Everything appeared normal at that moment. But the next morning, when she failed to arrive at church as expected, alarm bells began to ring. Upon checking her home, family members discovered signs of forced entry and what appeared to be a trail of blood, chilling evidence that something violent had occurred. Authorities with the Pima County Sheriff's Department have described the case as an abduction. Investigators believe Nancy was taken from her home against her will, possibly during the night while she slept or shortly after being dropped off. The investigation has been complicated by multiple purported ransom notes sent to local news outlets, raising questions about motive, identity of those responsible, and whether the communications are legitimate or attempts to mislead.